Hi, welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about getting your 3D model into Unreal Engine. In my previous video, we took a look at how to get our model set up so that we can put it into Unreal Engine from Maya by adding some materials to it. So now we're actually going to go ahead and take that same model, which we converted into an FBX, and import it into Unreal Engine. So we're going to go through those steps. Go ahead and continue on here. So here we have our Unreal Engine. I opened it up. This is our Epic Game Launcher, and we're not actually in Unreal Engine yet. So in Epic Game Launcher, just in case you've never done this before, we'll kind of go through it. You want to go ahead and launch a new project, and in this case I'm using 4.26.1. So it'll take a minute or two to open. So I'm going to go ahead and pause while that comes up. Okay, so now it's come up. This is the next page that you'll see if you're starting with a brand new, fresh project. And you can see that if you have some projects already, they'll pop up in here kind of in a tile format. And then what we really want to do is we're going to put this into a kind of a game. This will be the easiest one to do. So we're going to pick game. I'm going to go ahead and select next. And for this, because we're going to want to be able to kind of move around, take a look at the inside and run around inside our house or whatever scene we're going to set up, we're going to go ahead and use the third person game because this already comes with all that preset. So this third person option, and we're going to go ahead and say next. And we're going to add starter content to this one. So make sure that you have, it says with starter content right here. Everything else we're going to leave default. Down here at the very bottom section here, you want to make sure that you're going to put it in a folder where you're going to find it. In this case, I'm putting it into my folder I call Unreal Engine Projects. And then you want to give it a name. You probably don't want to leave it as my project. I have a few of those already by accident. Okay, so I'm going to call this one my, I think we'll call this one my house. You know what, I'm just going to call it 3D model demo. How about that? What it is. 3D model. Now, Unreal Engine doesn't like any spaces, so if you leave a space, it's not going to like it. It's not going to let you do it. So I'm going to do 3D model with an underscore, and then I'll just call this demo. Okay. So then I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. You can, of course, name it whatever you want. And, oh, yeah, also, it's got to start with a alphanumeric. So why don't we just call this model demo? And that'll be a good start. So again, a few things that particular about Unreal Engine. I'm going to go ahead and hit start, and then you're going to get a little pop-up window which is opened up on my other screen. See if I can drag it over. I cannot at this point in time. Okay, it is almost done. I was thinking about pausing, but we're going to go ahead and let it pop up, and I'm going to drag it over. And when it first opens up, this is what it looks like. It is this entire little world here for Unreal Engine. Now, you've got a little guy here, you got a camera. We don't want any of that stuff immediately, but this is sort of how they set it up as a demo. So I'm going to use this little demo to kind of show you, if you've never used Unreal Engine before, how to maneuver around inside of it. So what I'm doing right now is I'm holding down my right mouse button, and I can pan around just like this, all the way around 360 degrees, look up and down. If I use my left mouse button, I can look left and right, but if I push forward, I move forward, and if I pull backwards, I move backwards. So that's the difference between the right and left mouse button. Now, another way to move around is to move a little bit faster, and you can hold down the right mouse button. It's usually easier with the right mouse button because you can pan around and look all over the place. And then WASD on your keyboard. So just like in a video game, you hold down W to move forward, A to move left, D to move right, and S to move backwards. Q will take you straight down, and E will take you straight up. So you can kind of move around quickly like that while holding down the right mouse button. It also works with the left mouse button, but you cannot look up if you wanted to move forward, for example, and move upwards. You cannot do that using the left mouse button. All right, so that's the simple way to navigate around the scene. To move models, these little tools up here, just like in Maya, it's W, E, and R. So W for your move, E to rotate, and R to scale. Of course, you can also just click on these little buttons right here. Okay. and that'll allow you to move something. So if I select the stairs, for example, right here, I get this little gizmo. Now, one thing to remember is that unlike Maya, Y is up. In Unreal Engine, Z is up, as you can see here in the little gizmo on the left-hand corner here. So if I pull it up, it's going to move in the Z direction, and you can see that over here in your location, rotation, and scale. So your transform box over here. So if I move it up, you'll see that Z is moving up and down. And same with left and right. Okay. You can hit Control Z to undo things, just the same. Now, one thing to notice up here, we have some additional tools. This right here is to snap to our grid, and you can select the mount that it's going to snap in grid elements. So you can do really large ones all the way to small ones. And if you click on the little grid and it turns off, so the yellow is on, white is off. If you turn it on or off, this will enable or disable the snapping tool to the grid. This is the same thing. It's a snapping tool for rotation. You can turn it on and off. You have a down select here to change your degrees. And then same with scale. Turn it on or off for snapping, and you can also change your degrees here. This little thing right here is for your camera speed. So when we were flying around a minute ago, we were set at a 4. Let's see if it lets me do it. Okay, what am I doing here? There we go. Okay. So that's set to a 4 speed. If I drop down, 1 is the lowest, move very, very slow. And then of course the fastest is 8, all the way up here. And that will be insanely fast. Just like that. Alright, so that's what these little tools do. Over here on the left hand side, we have this drop down arrow that gives you some access to a bunch of different things you can show on your screen. This right here is the high resolution screenshot. Use this to take images of my game or of whatever asset it is that I'm trying to take an image of inside of Unreal Engine. If you click on it, your little multiplier comes up. You can adjust this multiplier switch all the way up to 10 and all the way down to 1. This just determines the level of or quality of the resolution that you're going to get. The higher the number, the longer it may take for it to take. You can specify a region that you want to capture. So if you don't want to catch the whole thing, you can specify it. Or you can just take an entire screenshot with this right here. And then what will happen is a little high resolution screenshot will happen. It'll pop up. You can click on that little thing, and here it is right here inside of your folder, inside of your project. So it'll be inside your new project, under Saved, under a new tab called Screenshots, a new folder called Screenshots, and then Windows. All right, so that's kind of how you can manipulate all this. Perspective, this just changes the viewport here. So just like in Maya, we have perspective, we have a top view where we look down, and when we go here, you'll see it says that it's a brush wire now. Before, when we're in perspective, it's in the lit view. You can change these just the same by hovering on it and select the different views. These you can change for all the different directions you want to catch. Right here, we're in the default viewport. You can also go to the cinematic viewport, which kind of gives you this wider view, and you also have the boxes at the edge. We can go ahead and go back to the default viewport. All right, so those are the biggest things that we need to know about inside of Maya, or inside of Unreal Engine, sorry. So what we're going to do is we're not actually going to use this scene to import anything into it. What we want to do is we want to have instead a new level. And what we're going to do is we're going to go up here to File. And we're going to select New Level, very top one. You can also hit Control N to do that. And we're going to just pick this default one right here. There are some other ones that, so a completely empty level, or you're going to build everything to include the lighting. This one already comes with some lighting set up, some of the basics that we need. We're not going to play around with the time of day for this demo. So let's pick default. And when we do that, we get this scene here. And I'm just going to go ahead and save it right now. I'm going to do File, Save, Current As. And what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and backspace there, and we're just going to call this map 1. You can also, I'll just call it scene 1. I'll call it scene 1. Okay, so something like that. Scene 1, you can call it level 1, whatever you want to call it. It's yours to choose. All right, so again, here in our basic scene, some things I didn't explain. This is our light source. This determines our light settings and the rotation and direction of the lighting. You see the little arrow pointing down right here. This is our player start, so when we hit play, our player will pop up into there, which I didn't demonstrate in the last thing, but we'll do that soon enough. Sky sphere. The sky sphere is this whole area that's around it, and you can also adjust it through this. So if you change the direction of your light source, you go to sky sphere, and you want to hit this little free refresh material right here to match your sky sphere to where your light source is. There's a little disc in the sky. See if we can find it. Right there, that represents the sun. And if I were to move my light source so that it comes from a different angle, you can kind of see it moves a little bit there. Move it this way. And then I go to my sky sphere and I hit refresh material. It pops over to where the new direction for my sun's at. Okay. This is our skylight. It also gives us a bunch of additional controls that we can use. Probably not going to get into that with this one here. Our reflection capture, same. Not really going to get into that. In fact, a lot of times I just delete that usually. And then what else? Atmospheric fog. Atmospheric fog is what gives this kind of a hazy appearance over distance. It is something that you can control. All these little settings here, you can increase the level of fog, the density, quite a few things and controls you can do to set up your scene just by the default systems that come in. This is the floor right there, and that's what we're going to start with, where we're going to put our house, or our model in this case. All right, so now let's go ahead and, now that we've saved it, I'm going to go ahead and do save all because I moved some things around. Every time you see a little asterisk up here, that's what that means. And the thing is I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that this is my default scene when it opens as well. So we're going to go up here to edit. We're going to go to project settings right here. And inside of project settings, we're going to go down to this one right here. So just a little bit from the top, it says maps and modes. Right here, the default maps. We're going to change these to our new default, which to our new scene, which I call mine scene 1. I'm going to do that for both of these. Okay, you don't have to hit save; it automatically updates that for you. And then, if you're a big Maya user like I am, one of the things that gets to me, so we're going to go ahead and close this out, is the way the mouse is inverse here, and you can see I'm totally bad at using that. In fact, I got totally lost now. So if I click on it and hit F, hover over here with my mouse and hit F on my keyboard, it brings me back into that scene, and I don't want to do that. All right, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to change my my mouse. All right, so I'm going to go back into editor preferences this time. Editor preferences, and that brings up this window right here. And right at the very top, I'm just going to type in mouse, and then I want to invert my middle mouse pan button. That way my button works the same way it does in Maya, and it's easier for me to transition back and forth between the two, because a lot of times I'm working them both at the same time, and then I just get all messed up. So once that's done, we can close it. Excuse me. And now my mouse works the same way, and I can kind of predict where it's going to go by pulling down my middle mouse button. Okay, so I think that gets us started. Let's see here. Next thing, I think what I'm going to do before I pull the model in is I'm going to go ahead and do something about the scale of my floor right here. And with it selected, there isn't really like a default control for that, I don't believe. Let's see here. Is there for a static mesh? No. All right. So since there is not, what we're going to do is we're just going to go ahead and scale it right here. Now, if we turn this little lock button on, right now it's open, so we can change these individually if I wanted to. I want to scale this evenly, and it doesn't really matter about Z. So I think maybe I won't do these evenly, but if you turn this little lock on, it would change everything evenly. I'll show you that when we get to actually doing the model itself. So I'm going to go ahead and just make this in the X and the Y direction 5 times bigger. Just give us enough room to work in for right now. We're ultimately going to, in the next video, learn how to do doing some terrain, and we'll build our own terrain. But temporarily, to get us started with that model, I'm going to go ahead and use this. Now I'm going to go ahead and pull in the model. So the easy way to do it is to dismiss that and go ahead and pull up your file explorer. Wow. And let's go ahead and find where that project is. And in this case, this is the wrong hard drive. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick. So you think you got everything all set up? All right, we're going to close that one. Actually, we'll leave this one open. And there it is. So I guess I can close that other one. So in this one right here, I'm going to go into my folder, which is called my Maya projects, into the house demo that I demonstrated in the last video, into scenes, and I should have one in here that is already a 3D object. This is an FBX, and this works with any model. This doesn't necessarily have to be out of Maya. You can do it with OBJs, and you can also with your object models, and you can also do it with the FBXs. So what I'm going to do is back here in my content browser, I'm going to go up to the top folder. So there's a bunch of folders in here that came with this. This is the mannequin. There's some geometry. So that scene that we first started with, that's located in here. This is the starter content that we picked. It's got a few items in it and materials. This is the third-person game stuff, and this is where we were, the blueprints. Okay. So, and this is the scene that we just created. So what we're going to do is, I'm going to do a couple things first. I'm going to right-click. I'm going to add a new folder. So out here in the empty area, right-click, add a new folder, and we're going to have one that we're going to call Maps. Okay. And I'm going to select both of these. I'm going to drag it and put it into my Maps folder. It's going to ask me, do I want to move it here or copy here? I want to move it here. And now it's inside there. I'm going to click back on my content folder, right click, I'm going to add a new folder. And this one I'm going to call Models. Okay. And I'm going to double click on Models. Inside here, I'm going to right click and make another new folder. And since this is my house, I'm going to go ahead and call it that, House. You can name your folder whatever your model is. So now with that done, I can just go ahead and I could either add, import it, or I could go up here, find it, drag it, and drop it down here. Okay. And then when I do that, this window pops up and asks me, what do I want to do? There's a bunch of different choices I have, but mostly we're not going to mess with any of those. I am going to turn off Generate Missing Collision because it's going to make this big box around the house and you won't be able to get in. And we're going to have to modify that anyway and make our own. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. Everything else I'm going to leave alone, and I'm going to hit Import All. Okay, now you notice what it's done is it brought in all of my house pieces, and it also brought in all of these materials that were created inside of Maya. Now, in the last video, I didn't actually add any textures to these. These are all just empty materials that were assigned to these different pieces of the house. Okay, and the default material is there. So what it's going to do is it's going to assign random colors to all of these as it goes through and builds the shaders. You can see that down here. It's going to look for them. It's not going to find any. And it'll just add some random colors. So we'll let it do that. While it's doing that, if everything is still highlighted yellow, we only want the pieces of our house. So these squares that have the blue lines underneath it, we want all of those. We do not want any of the green underlines, which are our materials. We just want these right here. And we're going to just highlight them all together. And when we click on it and drag it into the scene, it'll assemble our model the way it was in Maya, okay, or whatever source you got it from, if you have multiple pieces. Now, we didn't combine any of these because we wanted to be able to manipulate these inside of the Unreal Engine, so that's why they're all pieces. If I had combined them all, they would all come in as a single piece. So if I had a door I wanted to open, I wouldn't be able to open it unless it was set up that way already. We're going to do that inside of Unreal Engine as we move along. All right, so now if you look over here in the World Outliner, this is the World Outliner over here on the left. This is everything that is in this world. Down here, this folder down here, all the content browser, everything that we want to use or as an asset for our game is located down here in this section in the content browser. Okay. All right, so with these still highlighted as they are right here, if they're not highlighted, you can just click on it, hold the shift button, and go down and select the bottom one and select them all. So they're all selected. And we want to hit this little folder right here. We're going to put them all in a folder together. So I'm going to hit that, and I'm just going to call this what it is. This is a house, so I'm going to call it house. Okay? Now I can close and open this folder and keep things nice and clean. But the other nice thing about it is it makes it easy for me to select everything in here. So I can right click, and I want to select immediate children. Now this is important because if when we start putting things together in the house, like glass window to window frames and doorknobs to doors, and we're going to have a parent-child relationship, if you select everything and then move it or change things, it's going to really throw the doorknob that's a child of another object off. So we don't want to do that. What we do want to do is we want to make our house bigger so that it actually seems like a house. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and hit R on my keyboard and select my scale tool. And actually, so I'll go ahead and show this first, and then I'll show you how to also do it over there in the transform section. So right here, this very center square in the middle, this will make sure that everything scales evenly. So I'm going to select that, and I'm going to move my mouse so my house starts to grow. Okay. I can also do that right here in this tool. I'm going to turn on this little lock, so I'm going to click the lock down, and I just have to type in one box right here. So I think that this house needs to be something about 8.5 for scale, I believe. So I'm going to hit that. I'm going to hit W on my keyboard, or I'm going to go hit this up here if W doesn't work, and I'm going to go ahead and kind of pull the house up out of the ground a little bit. All right. And now, because I have no colliders on here, if I put my character in here, it's going to just run right through the walls. We can kind of get a feel for it, and I'll show you real quick how to put some colliders on so that we can actually manipulate into this, move up into this house and kind of get a feel for the scale. All right, so now I've got this kind of lined up the way I want it. Got those in the ground just a little bit. If I hit play on my keyboard, there's my character. I hadn't moved any of those things for the world, and you can kind of see my player's scale. So again, you hit the play button up here at the top, right here, this play button, and you can then move your character around. WASD to move the character. I believe the arrow keys also do the same thing, and space bar to jump if you wanted to jump. You can kind of see that here he is moving around in the scene. Use your mouse to look around. Alright, so to get out of this mode, you hit escape. What we want to do is we want to add some colliders so that we can actually have our player interact with our house, because right now he would just run straight through it. And bad habit of mine. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and select just the outer part of the house. So I'm going to select that part, and you can see that it highlights right there. When I do that, over here on the right side, this is the details. So right here I'm in the details. And mine probably looks a little bit different than yours, okay? I keep saying right here is the world outliner, over here is the details. By default, your world outliner is right up here along the top. What I did is I grabbed this tab right here. So here's where it's normally at. It probably looks a lot like what yours looks like right now. So here's the world outliner. Down here's the details, and here's the world settings. So what I did is I grabbed the world outliner, and I just stuck it over here to allow me to see it a little bit better. I'm going to move it on the other side of the place. Oh, I don't want to do that. I'll just leave it there for right now. All right. And then when I do that, it makes this all a little bit bigger. My details has more space too. I can see everything in my world a little bit better. Just a preference. You can use it however you want. But anyway, back to this. With the house selected, here on the static mesh, right here is the actual model itself. And what I can do is I can double click on this right here. And when I do that, that brings up another tab, and I can grab these tabs and I can park them right up here next to the scene tab, so I can go back and forth between these, just like this. And what happens is that this right here, remember we brought it in with no colliders? What we want to do is over here on the right hand side, you can see in the details for this particular model, there are quite a few materials assigned to it. And you can see that by all the different colors assigned to the walls here. So those are different colors for different rooms and also for the outside walls. So as we start to bring in materials, which I'll show in the next video, that these will get populated and then we can manipulate each individual one. But for right now, what we want to do is we want to add some colliders. So I'm going to scroll down past all these materials, keep going down until you find the collision spot right here. And what we want to do is pretty simple. Right here where it says collision complexity, it says project default. Hit that down arrow and select use complex collision as simple. And once we do that, we want to save it. Okay? And now I'm going to go back to my scene. Now the next thing I need to do is, because I have these staircases in the way, I need to do that same thing. So I'm going to select one of those. Again, select it, look for the static mesh, double click on it, and we're going to go ahead and scroll down to the colliders, change collision complexity from project default to use complex collision as simple, save it. I'm going to go back to my scene, and now if I hit play, got to make sure that my player is not actually inside the deck anymore, because what's going to happen is he's not going to pop in correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and go up here, minimize my house stuff, select my player start, and see how he's stuck down in the ground right there. I'm going to pull him up a little bit. Now if I hit play, he should appear right on top. Alright, so there he is. He's standing on the deck. Now I don't have the doors set up for colliders yet, so I can walk right through them. I can get a feel for my scale. I think I made the house just a little bit too big. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and hit escape. Get out of that mode. I'm going to go back into my world outliner for my house. Now right here with that folder, I can just right click on it, select immediate children, and I'm going to go ahead and change it from 8.5 to, I think maybe we'll try going down to 8. I'm going to go ahead and hit play again, see what his scale looks like. I think that's a little better. It still might be a little tall. Maybe go down to 7.5. So you can see we can go back and forth. Now with the house already selected, we can go ahead and try this again, because we want all three axes to be adjusted together. Okay, and that might be a little bit better. Yeah. All right, so I'm not sure how tall this character is supposed to be. We can leave it at that. Let's go ahead and, now I can't go up the stairs yet because, again, I need to add colliders to the stairs. But that is the basic process of getting your house into Unreal Engine and be able to move around. Now the next video I'll do will talk about getting materials out of Bridge. So we're going to use Quixel materials and we'll put those into the house. So again, thank you for watching. If you like what you saw, please go ahead and sorry, got a little distracted. So if you like what you saw, please like it down at the bottom and also subscribe to my channel. Thanks again and have a great day.